All right, this is attempt number 2 at recording tonight. Audio did not work the first time, so we'll see.
We're making it work. We
We're-
pray that this is better. We're figuring it out slowly but surely. Okay.
We're gonna get this figured out, but attempt number 2.
We're-
Camera recorded perfectly the first time, so
It's just the audio.
the audio from the camera just was picking up the AC unit, so
And-
having to record again.
And our audio from when we first did this corrupted.
Yeah, so we're enjoying life right now.
So we're filming this. We're filming audio on my phone
yeah, through microphones, but
through microphone, which it sounds okay.
It sounds better than what we were hearing static from the corrupted audio file, and it sounds better than what's coming from the camera with the AC unit. So we're just
So-
running right now.
Hopefully it works.
Hopefully.
We're gonna figure it out. We're gonna figure it out.
We're gonna get it figured out at some point. So we're starting these bi-weekly. We mentioned that in the first time recording this, but second time through, I always got to re-mention everything. But we're gonna start these bi-weekly. Sunday is going to be all around college sports. When we get into spring ball and season and things like that, it'll be around college football mainly, as there's not much other college sports going on. In spring, we'll probably also mention baseball and
Probably.
softball, considering Omaha hosts the World Series for college baseball.
Yeah.
And then Wednesdays will be a second episode that will come out that per week, and that'll be based mainly around professional sports. Whereas once MLB gets back up, we'll start mentioning that. NBA season is going on right now, so we will mention that as well when we get to Wednesday episodes. But right now, we're mainly going to be using those to talk about the NFL playoffs, as that is the big thing everyone's talking about.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into it.
Yeah,
Obviously, this week was crazy for college athletics.
not as crazy as the week prior, but
Yeah, we had the fabled Wake Forest NC State fight.
yeah, got to
And-
see that go down.
The high knees ref, as he's been nicknamed, Jeff Anderson.
2 ejections and a total of 6 technical fouls in one game.
One
which is
game.
absurd. That's what we like to call the refs getting too involved in the game.
I mean, yeah, it gets heated. I think everybody can agree. You get heated.
Yeah. I think you get heated, but you also don't want the refs to be making decisions on things that are happening in the games. So
Yeah.
that's not always fun.
Yeah, it definitely sucks.
There were some big teams that went down this week. That's true as well.
Yeah, West Virginia over KU. I mean,
And then number 7, Duke losing to Pitt in Cameron Indoor.
yeah.
There were some crazier games. Creighton, Seton Hall, triple overtime, thriller.
Yeah.
But kind of just talking about the big wins, you've got Texas beating Baylor was another one that we didn't quite have written down on here, but I
Yeah.
remember it happening. Where do we see what's your prediction for top 4 next week? As the rankings come out tomorrow, noonish, 1:00ish. Where do you think the top 4 are going to go?
I
Because
think
I have
it's-
my guess. I think Kansas is out of the top 4.
I
I think they're probably looking more into the 10, like barely in the top 10 range.
I think it's going to come down to UConn and Purdue still at 1 and 2. I think Houston might jump back to 3, just because maybe North Carolina 3, Houston 4.
That's where my brain's going, because North Carolina has been more consistent than Houston.
Yeah.
Houston's playing tougher games because they're in the Big 12, but they've been more consistent. In my mind, I think your top 4 is going to be tomorrow when this comes out. I think it's going to be UConn, Purdue, North Carolina, Houston. I think that's kind of where you're looking for your top 4, because Kansas lost, Duke lost, Tennessee won a tough game against Bama. Kentucky still looks like Kentucky plus. Was it Kentucky or Duke? It was one of the big ones that's getting Big Z back. I believe that's Kentucky, right?
I believe so.
He just got reinstated by the NCAA. He signed 100-something days ago and is finally getting to get his first touches. His first 2 games, he's averaging like 17 and 14. Like, he's a good big man that's going to make a difference for that team down the stretch. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. We were talking earlier too with West Virginia over KU. Were you I know I asked you, but for the people at home, you said you weren't able to watch some of that, right?
The West Virginia KU, I was not. I was busy watching my Tar Heels and Sooners, so I did not get to see that game.
Bill Self, man. That
I
man
love watching Kansas games just to watch Bill Self get upset. It's the funniest thing to watch.
That man was beat red. Like, out of all the coaches this week to get pissed off at calls,
Yeah.
that man was beet red, pissed off.
Yeah, he gets upset, and it's funny to watch. It's as an OU fan, I've seen it for years, and even when he was at ORU, that was kind of before my time as being alive. But I have people that I know, like I've got a kid that I went to high school with. He plays at ORU now. His dad was coached by Bill Self when Bill Self was at ORU. He is a firecracker. Like once he gets started, he does not stop. That's for sure.
Yeah. I think that one was interesting. Obviously, with the Duke loss in Cameron.
Duke doesn't lose in Cameron Indoor.
No.
That was a big one. Not to mention with the way Pitt handled it. And speaking of post game, how people handled post game, I know we talked about it the first time, but the fact that the Texas coach got so butthurt about throwing the horns down, I think was just hilarious for me, due to the sheer fact that as an OU fan, I love to throw the horns down myself, but it's something that I think that is a big deal. And it's not, or Texas fans think it's a lot bigger deal than it is. I think it's a big deal. They're making a big deal about it because once we move to the SEC, OU and Texas both move into the SEC next year for all sports. They're not going to be able to make that a thing anymore.
Yeah.
Like that's something they can't just deal with. They're going to have to, or that's not something they can complain about because the SEC has already told them once, we're not helping y'all out. Suck it up. Drop your balls. Like, be a man.
Yeah.
Or a woman in the female sports. Can't. I mean, because softball gets a little bit upset about it too. But as an OU fan, 53-game win streak is incoming. We're about 100. We're real close to season. I'm ready for that.
Yeah, you mentioned, I mean, like, a lot of schools have, like the certain move, like the horns down, right? Miami's the U down.
Yeah, U Miami's got one.
Louisville, the L down.
Florida State, when they get beat, people will do the tomahawk chop.
Yeah.
Like, it's part of sports, and Texas fans and coaches and players need to understand that. Because when they win, they don't get upset when they get to throw the horns, when they get to just throw horns up. But the second they lose and someone throws horns down, it's like all hell broke loose.
Yeah. And I understand, too, where he's coming from with respect, right? I think we were talking earlier, right? The famous Nick Saban cut that out after they kind of barely beat him that one year.
Yeah, Saban wasn't too happy about it.
Like, I understand where he's coming from. It's a respect thing, but at the same time, right? You get that big of a win against a first year opponent in your new conference.
Yeah,
you're gonna celebrate.
Yeah, it's a big deal because people don't. I don't think people realize how it's really not that big of a deal when it comes to affecting the games and things. And it was a big deal in the Big 12 whenever the Big 12 said that it's now an unsportsmanlike conduct 15-yard penalty in the college football region. But it was when the NCAA let the Big 12 do that, it was kind of a big deal. And I think it shows kind of what the difference is between the Big 12 and the SEC when you look and see that the SEC has told Texas, suck it up. You're not getting any special treatment just because you're Texas.
Yeah. The other, you mentioned too, schools kind of, or, coaches going off. What do you think about Nate Oates? We didn't talk about this, but Nate Oates, head coach of Bama, pushing one of the Missouri players.
I haven't actually seen that. That's news to me. I did not hear about that yet.
So they got into a little scuffle in front of the Bama bench, and Oates pushed one of the guys, getting him out of the way. Which here's the thing about Nate, right? Mm-hmm. He's a great coach.
Yeah.
But he knew Missouri's head coach, so he apologized to both him and the player in the post game, which I thought that was a good moment.
I think in situations like that, it's good to see them apologize. I can't remember who it was. I saw something earlier. We didn't talk about this in the first one. But who was it that had the hole in their court?
Oh, I don't know.
Who was that? It wasn't Bama, but I remember it being a red team, if I remember it correctly.
We're racing to see who can get there.
Yeah, we're both trying to look this up at the same time. Should have written this down.
We probably should have.
I typed Hool. Hold on. When did this happen? Because I don't remember where it was. I can't find it. Was it NBA?
I don't know.
I don't remember where it was at, but there were things like that, like right in front of the bench, where they covered it by a piece of
Oh
paper.
yeah, that was in the NBA.
That was NBA.
That was NBA.
We can talk about that on Wednesday when we
Yeah.
talk about professional sports. But things like that, you just can't let happen.
Yeah. Yeah. It was good on him to apologize.
Yeah, the apology was not a necessary thing, but it's something that's good to see those coaches that they still have respect for each other.
So kind of like switching gears to another great game was Creighton Seton Hall, my Jays. Triple overtime win for.
Triple overtime game for your Blue Jays.
When I tell you, right?
I know you were stressed watching that one. I wasn't watching it with you because you were at home,
Yeah.
but I know you were stressed watching that one.
I was able to finally make it out to go back home this weekend. And I kid you not, like you've seen me, like when Creighton played UConn last week,
That Creighton
I threw my
UConn
hat
game,
in
you
anger.
were not a happy camper watching that game, but I can't say much because that's the exact same way I was with the OU-TCU game last week.
I mean, we talk about like obviously playing in the Great Plains Athletic Conference. We talk about refs not being the best.
Yeah, GPAC refs, we always joke about them not being good at all, but
Ryan Kalkbrenner, the center for the Jays, had a
elbow
good clean
to
block.
the head.
Took an elbow and got the foul called on him.
Got a foul call. It's difficult as a defensive player when you get a block to then get called for a foul after you're the one who takes the brunt of the contact. And that's kind of stuff that is just, I view it as the refs are trying to get a hand in this game, but it's also something that they shouldn't be doing. I
Yeah.
hate it when refs get involved. I hate it when they try to make the game about themselves. It's the reason I hate NBA refs. It's I full-heartedly believe that the best refs are in the MLB because they don't get too involved. They do what they have to do and they leave it at that. They let the bat flips happen as long as it doesn't slow the game down too much. They are good about what they do, and every other sport I think needs to take a look at what MLB does and say, are our refs getting too involved? Because you see how much the MLB has been enjoyed in the last, 5 years.
Yeah. With that game, Ryan Kalkbrenner, though, 28 points, 9 rebounds, 7 blocks in
Big time.
one game.
That's big time.
It was a physical game. Like Seton Hall, right? Great team. They're a great
always-
team.
The record may not always show it, but they're always a team that'll go out and compete.
Yeah. It was the second triple overtime contest in the history of both programs. Creighton's first such win ever in program history, and
First triple overtime win. That's big.
that's crazy. And the other crazy part too was that the New Jersey Devils for the NHL play right after him.
Yeah.
I tweeted it out too. I don't know if you saw that.
I probably haven't yet. I haven't been on Twitter much.
Creighton's head radio guy John Bishop.
Mm-hmm.
Please never change. He was just going off on the refs.
Yeah.
We were joking around that he might get fined, and he responded back. And
Those are the best kind of official crews. That's why in college football, I loved watching. I think some of the guys that do the best job for just their school specific. If you ever watch an OU broadcast, our crew during especially football season, they're not as great during like basketball and things like that, but during football and softball, it's some of the best, most enthusiastic officiating crews ever. I think there's also two sides to that coin. You can't be
Yeah.
too enthusiastic because people, as an NBA fan, I think it's hilarious, but I hate watching Hornets broadcasts because their announcers are too stupidly hyped for everything that happens. Like there are clips where it's become a meme on TikTok to a point where people are editing them saying stuff about like whenever they're cheering on Terry Rozier and they edited over Terry Rozier making a free throw on like a tech or something like that. And it's got to a point where some of those clips I almost question if they're real or if they're edited because I don't know.
yeah. But yeah, John Bishop's good at what he does.
Yeah.
So kind of looking back at the rankings here, the teams that dropped from this past week or 17 Colorado State, 19 San Diego State, who just won.
Yeah.
See what they can do. 23 Gonzaga, 21 Clemson, 25 Texas, who just won on that buzzer beater.
Texas beating
Against
Bama on the buzzer beater.
Against who?
Or not Bama, Baylor. Wow.
Roll Tide.
Wrong BA. But that's the other thing I think is that if you want to watch good college basketball games right now, the way to go is turn on a Big 12 game.
Yeah.
Because every game feels like a tournament atmosphere. Everyone is playing like it's their last game of the season. Lose, you're out. Which makes it so much fun to watch because everybody is playing to the end. Especially you got teams like Texas. They are great in the final 5 minutes, or at least from what I've seen, they always look great in the final 5 minutes. As an OU fan, I don't watch a lot of Texas basketball because I don't like Texas. But I think you look at them and you have to say they are a competent team in the last 5 minutes. Can't say the same about OU. We've had a lot of breakdowns in the final 5 minutes. I think Creighton is pretty good in the final 5 minutes of games. They don't slack off, and in tight games they continue to push it. They one of the things my coach always told me in high school was put your foot on the throat and don't take it off, because the second you take your foot off the throat of the opponent is the second that you start to get too lackluster and teams start to come back, and that's where you get in real trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot of great teams, and I think you're getting to the point now where it's end of conference play, getting ready for the tournaments to start, to where it's almost you have to, and holy moly, really quickly. Can you hear the wind out there?
I can. I also am just realizing that the timer I set for my camera, I set it for 29 hours and not 29 minutes.
You know,
So I'm trying to do math in my head right now, and it's not working too well because I'm trying to make sure I don't screw this up.
For reference, our camera, because we're filming this for YouTube, we're trying to at least, right?
Yeah, we're attempting to. We think we figured out the camera. It used to only record for like 10 minutes at a time, but now we've got it set to 29, 30-ish minutes. So we were trying to set timers so we can make sure we keep these episodes not too long, because you don't really want to sit and listen to a 45-hour-long podcast, especially about sports when we're talking about one section of sports, and we're going to be doing these bi-weekly, so you're going to be getting 60 minutes of content for almost a week.
Yeah, we're trying to go 30 minutes, which my timer says we're at 17 minutes.
We'll find out.
For audio. But,
we'll find out. As long as that doesn't get to 28, 30, we're fine.
Yeah. But yeah, no, the wind is whipping.
Welcome to, well, you're from Nebraska.
Yeah.
I can't always say welcome to Nebraska, but that was one of the things my grandfather told me, my grandpappy.
Okay, Southern boy. People are going to be so confused listening to this out of nowhere.
They're going to be confused if they're listening to this on Spotify. And if you're confused, check out the YouTube. We'll probably have it linked in the podcast on Spotify. And you'll understand. You take one good look at me, and you could probably make a guess at where I'm from, considering I hate Texas. I'm an OU fan, and the mullet is a thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you can take a guess where my accent and things come from, and my sayings about good old Southern boy and rub some dirt on it and things like that, that's where it comes from. It's pretty obvious if you see me in person where I'm from. It's not too hard to guess it. But hearing me on audio probably is a little confusing.
I mean, heck, I'm literally wearing pajama pants today.
Yeah, I mean,
it's been a lazy
video
day.
recording's only coming from the shoulders up.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a lazy day today.
Yeah, been a little bit.
I mean, yeah. So yeah, back to
college basketball.
The wind right now is just going crazy. I thought we had to mention it because it was driving me crazy. Normally we have headphones on, but
yeah, normally we have headphones on, checking the audio, but right now we're gonna just hope this works.
We're winging it.
We're winging it right now. We both got to be up for early morning lift and run tomorrow, so we're chilling for right now.
Yeah. So yeah, I think this year for college basketball is just crazy.
I can't wait to see what happens in March. If January and February look like this, I can't imagine what March is going to be like. We thought last year's tournament was crazy.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what this year's is going to look like. Because I know we were talking about Indiana State is looking like they're going to be one of the first four out. But like you look at the teams that are in, like the last four in, and none of them are bad teams.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to get a bad team this year. Heck, Nebraska is one of the last four buys.
Yeah. So last four
buys. They went and beat Purdue.
Yeah. Last four buys, looking on the bubble from ESPN's bracketology. Last four buys are Texas Tech, Nevada, Northwestern, who just lost to Nebraska,
And then Nebraska.
and Nebraska. The last four in are Cincinnati, South
Big 12.
Carolina, Wake Forest, K-State.
Got two Big 12 teams in there, and I was just talking about it earlier. Big 12, every game feels like a tournament game.
First four out, New Mexico, Providence playing without Bryce Hopkins, and it is showing.
Yeah, I feel like they get Bryce Hopkins back. They'll probably be back in that last four in.
Tore ACL, though, out for the season. So unless modern medicine
fair.
is
I
good.
I hadn't seen his injury yet. I remember we had talked about it earlier, him getting injured. I hadn't done a ton of research into the injury.
Yeah.
So we got to see. Providence has got to find the guy that can replace him.
Yeah.
Which it isn't easy to replace a guy like that.
No.
But nonetheless, you got to find your guy to replace him.
Boise State and then Indiana State, who we just mentioned. And then in the next four out is Colorado, Miami, Gonzaga, and the Ohio State University.
So, I mean, you're talking about like your last four or your last eight that are currently sitting on the outside looking in are all good teams as well. Like, it's not a situation where I think we're going to have blowouts in the first round. I think you're going to obviously have your 16 seeds that aren't going to look as good versus your ones, but I think your 5 and 12s, your 8 and 9s, your 4 and 13s are going to be a lot closer than people are going to give them credit for when it gets to that point.
Yeah, so projected right now, again with ESPN's bracketology, the ones and twos. We'll do one.
Giving OU a 5 seed.
We'll do 1, 2s, and 3s right now. So in the Midwest region is 1 Purdue, 3 Baylor, 2 Tennessee.
Yeah.
That's an interesting little.
And then you got Marquette and Oklahoma sitting in there too
Yeah.
at the 4 and the 5. That's a group that's a area that could look really, really good. Colorado State's in there at the 6. I know they beat Creighton earlier this season, so they've proven they can beat good opponents when they need to.
In the East region, it is 1 UConn, 2 North Carolina, and
boys.
3 Kentucky. But she also got 4 Illinois and 5 BYU.
See, I think that 4 and 5 is not as good as maybe what we were looking at in the Purdue side.
Yeah.
But you're talking about, both those teams are teams that can go in and win games.
But BYU's projected to play number 12 Drake, who Drake right now, coached by
Drake
Darren
looks
D-Rock, I'm going to call him that, DeVries.
They look like they're a lot better than a 12 seed.
Oh, yeah. They're probably number 2, I would say, in the Missouri Valley right now.
They're right behind,
Illinois State.
Illinois State. Like, they look like a team that could go in and break some hearts and get some Cinderella looks.
In the West region right now, with some games coming to Omaha.
How about them apples?
They're really expensive tickets, by the way.
I had a feeling.
It is 1 Houston, 2 Arizona, 3 Duke, 4 Bama, 5 Dayton.
And then you got a 6 of Utah State, but Cincinnati could get that 16 seed to play Utah State, and I think Cincinnati's a lot better. Or is that a 16 seed or a 12? Or 11? The 11 seed. I can't read. I'm looking at a small computer screen. I think Cincinnati, if they get that 11 seed, Cincinnati's also a team to look out for come tournament time because they're a tough team. I watched the OU Cincinnati game. They made us work for it. They made us work for that 10-point win.
Now in the South, it is 1 Kansas.
They're probably going to get booted out of there pretty soon after the loss. That may be a North Carolina 1 seed come
maybe. 2 Wisconsin, 3 Auburn, 4 Creighton, 5 Memphis. Which that one, I do agree. I think Kansas might get out of that 1 spot.
Yeah. I think Kansas could lose that to either Houston or North Carolina come new rankings tomorrow.
I'm a little shocked with a 3 seed Auburn there.
I mean, Auburn's been good, but I don't know if they're 3 seed worthy. But, it's also, like we were saying, it's the end of January. We don't know what February is going to hold and about that after that. But, I mean, they're a 16-2 SEC team. You can't really argue with a 16-2 SEC team.
No.
Especially not this year where the SEC and the Big 12 look way more competitive than ever.
Yeah, they're sitting at number 13 currently. That's just interesting to me.
They're They're sitting right behind Arizona.
Yeah. But yeah. So right now, honestly, kind of looking at each of these divisions, if the tournament started tomorrow, let's say,
Yeah.
or I get, yeah, I really think that this South region, right?
Yeah.
I think it could come down to a Kansas, maybe even maybe an Auburn. Looking
Yeah.
at it, I could see Kansas getting there.
If I had to make a Final Four prediction right now, I would say you're looking at an Arizona could be in there. Arizona or Houston, I think, are two teams that are really good, could make Final Four. North Carolina, I believe, is a Final Four team when it comes to looking at pure talent and how they're playing, because they are playing more together than ever right now. It just looks like things are clicking. Obviously, UConn. UConn's going to be in there. I think the four. I think if I was to give you givens, I think it's a given that UConn. Wow, not Utah. UConn and I think UConn and Purdue are guaranteed to kind of be in there with how they're playing right now. Purdue always struggles in the tournament, whereas I think since they're playing on the side that looks like they're going to get Baylor or Tennessee, I think Baylor and Tennessee could upset Purdue. But right now, if I had to make a guess, I'm thinking Baylor, UConn, Arizona, and North Carolina, or just depending on how the bracket plays out, obviously. But those are kind of the 4 to 5 I would watch out for come tournament time, personally.
Yeah, I would. Here's my thing on Purdue. I don't think they're a good team. And I know I'll probably get something for that. They just don't play consistent enough.
That's fair. They struggle. When Zach Edey is not being the tallest dude on the court, they struggle.
Yeah.
And come tournament time, there are going to be matchups that Zach Edey is not going to be able to be the tallest guy just to go out there and stand under the rim and put up shots.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest issues I have with Zach Edey come draft time, talking about NBA stuff. I think that that's going to be one of the biggest issues teams see with him, is that at a powerhouse like Purdue, he didn't put up crazy numbers. It's the same thing that happened with Luka Garza.
Yeah.
That Garza won Player of the Year, went into the draft, was taken in the second round because he was a traditional big man that couldn't shoot the three ball as well as what you would want in NBA talent. And now he's in the G League for the T-Wolves.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the same path we're looking at for Edey when it comes to professional ball, at least in the NBA sphere.
Yeah. So that's just my thing with Purdue. Is I don't think they're consistent enough.
Coming down to about a minute-ish, 2 minutes-ish.
Yeah, I mean, that was my last little point, really.
So I would say that I guess that's kind of the end of this episode.
Yeah.
Keep an eye out. Wednesday, there will be a new episode coming out. That'll be strictly professional sports. I know we kind of mixed it in this one, talking about kind of NBA with the college basketball kind of stuff. It's kind of hard not to mention where we see guys going draft-wise.
Yeah.
But we will be focusing more on NFL playoffs. Just Chiefs game just finished. We've got it going in the background over here. So we'll be talking about that and the other divisional games. And we will be talking about maybe some NBA once the basketball season or once the football season's over, because NBA is going to be going full rampage there. And then we'll have MLB at some point in the spring.
So I'm excited for Wednesday.
Yeah.
We got a lot to talk about that day.
Wednesday's episode is going to be a good one, so don't miss it.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening. We're going to try our best to figure everything out. Like I said, we're winging it.
For right now, hopefully we got everything figured out tonight.
Hopefully. So thank you, and we will catch you next time.